Hello, what's up everybody? Today I have a very special video for you, or at least it is for me. It is my first look and first time opening the Canon RF 70-200 f4. This lens is one of the holy grail lenses. Of course, there's also the 2.8, but why I did not choose to test that for now will be part of this video, of course, as well as testing this lens, unboxing it right now, and then I will do a little bit of work with it and come back to give you my opinion on it. And of course also, why may this be more interesting than the 2.8, or if the 2.8 might even be worth it. And more importantly, maybe I'm actually also going to talk about how this compares to the 24-105 f4 lens, because in a way, they have a overlapping range, and why all of those things are important will be part of this video. But first and foremost, now is the really exciting moment of actually unboxing this lens right here in front of me so that we can take a bit of a look at what comes in the box. And for me, this is actually the first time unboxing a 70-200mm lens from Canon. It's not the first L lens because the 24-105 is also one, but it for sure feels unreal to now be in a position to actually test this lens, have a look at it, and decide whether or not I find it so interesting and so good at what it does and what it gives me as well in terms of the creative flexibility that I want to keep this. So let's dig into this box and see what we get. First up, of course, we have a bit of paperwork right there. Then the next thing is this lens carrying pouch. Now, I personally don't really use these because I usually have my backpack, and you can actually see that in the back right there, which is the Peak Design travel backpack or whatever it is called, with the inlay, the large one. So that's not something I will be using much, but we have more paperwork, and then we can pull this aside and have a bit of a styrofoam. And there we have the lens hood. And the cool thing about the L glass from Canon is that they always come with a lens hood. Now, whether or not you want to actually use the lens hood is up to you. Personally, with the 24-100, I rarely ever use the lens hood. I'll see how it will fare with this one, whether or not it will make sense for me to carry this around. And yeah, we'll see. But it's actually really cool to, first time ever, have a white lens hood in my hands. And it seems to be really well made and feels sturdy. So that's going to be going on the side right there. And then we have the lens. It's with more styrofoam at the bottom, and then the box is pretty much empty as is there. And then we have a bit of protective and the lens itself. So let's roll this out of its packaging. And I'll have a little bit of a thing there. But this is really unreal. This feels unreal to hold a white lens from Canon. I don't know what it is about that. I don't even know exactly why they went with the white finish on this 70-200 or even any of those higher telephoto lenses. I don't know why they make this choice. Maybe that's something I have to look up. But it feels really cool to have one in my hands right here. Now, as I can see here on the outside, first thing you have a lock, which basically locks it at 70mm, and then you can zoom. And of course, you cannot lock in any other position. Now, personally, I would actually prefer if the locking mechanism would work everywhere. I have the same situation with the 24-105. Don't know why that is not possible. It's basically just a carrying lock. So you have the contracted version, the shortest version of the lens, and that's locked in place. Personally, I would prefer if the lock actually would be able to lock everywhere, simply because of those certain moments where you either do a upside down shoot or a shooting up, or maybe even just slightly tilted, but simply to protect against the fade in when you do not have any locking mechanism. So that's one thing that I think could be improved, but anyways. Then we have a switch which makes the autofocus go from either the full range or start at 2.5 and then go to infinity. This, of course, is really handy if you are doing some type of sports photography where you know that you are far away, but the autofocus will be faster on those more distant subjects. Then we have autofocus and manual focus, stabilization on and off, and then a switch in the stabilization modes 1, 2, and 3. Now, this is completely new for me. I will have to learn what those means and what those 3 different modes going to be, because I have never had that situation. I do have lenses where I can enable and disable the stabilization, but never have I seen one where I actually have 3 different modes, and I will have to check out the manual for that. Now, looking at the lens further, of course, we have the zoom ring right here. So we have that, and of course, it's an extending lens, whereas the previous versions of the 70-200 EF mounted versions never extended. However, the great thing here is that the size of this lens actually is very small, and the weight is also comparably really light. And it feels really okay to carry around right now, at least. And of course, I just have one lens in my hand. But basically, I like the fact that they went with this design. Maybe there are implications in terms of weather sealing, but these L-glass lenses are all weather sealed based on the descriptions of Canon, so there should not really be much of a problem. Then we have the focus ring, and of course this is focused by wire and goes in infinity, and you can change your settings there. And then you have the clicking front dial, which is this RF multifunction dial, which all the RF lenses nowadays have. And yeah, I'm excited to just play around with this lens overall. Now let's open it up here and remove the lens cap. And there we have the lens, and it seems like it's not locked in place either. This is normal, but I think that in my lenses, whenever I do not shut off the camera properly, then I get this, that in the lens itself, there are parts that are moving or flapping around. Now, whenever I do lock the lens or shut off the camera, then the lens locks in place. So I'll have to figure out what that means. When I move it, I can see certain parts inside moving, and maybe that means that I need to get a replacement, if that is actually a problem. Now, on the back, of course, we have the other opening, and opening that up, we can see the back, the connection points, as well as some weather sealing. There's actually a bit of a, I don't know, gummy thingy. I don't know how that's called right now. But that's it. This is the unboxing of this lens. I also have a filter right here, which I will be applying instantaneously. And this is a BW UV haze filter. And of course, the main reason for me to put this onto this lens is not to protect against UV haze, but simply to basically have a glass in front of the main glass element of this lens. Now, there is a big debate whether or not that is actually worth it, whether or not you should be doing that in this day and age. There are people that are saying that it's basically unnecessary because the UV filter is already built into the camera itself. I personally like having this on there simply because these lenses are so damn expensive that I don't want to scratch the front element. And so that's why I choose to go with one of those filters basically from the start. So that's applied, and now I basically can play around with it and I feel more confident. And now I can also attach the lens hood, and this is how it looks when you attach that and unlock this and zoom. And this is how it looks when you extend it all the way. Now I will be taking this outside and play around with it inside, and overall just get a feel for how this lens operates, what it gives me creatively in the work that I have coming up. And based on what you might know from videos I have previously published before actually getting this out, or the final review out, I actually have tons of really interesting projects coming up with my girlfriend especially, and with our travels to Marbella and all of that. So this will be really cool to test out, get to know before we actually go, and then also see if I want to keep it and bring it along on that trip, or if the 24-105 f4 will be completely enough. Now, enough talking, let's jump into some of the shots I will be taking with this throughout my testing, and then back here or somewhere else to give you a couple more thoughts on this lens and what I think about it. Now, during the edit of this video, I noticed that I will probably just publish this unboxing first and foremost. However, it's been a couple of days since I have now been using the 70-200 in my hands with my camera, have done a bit of a photo walk with it, went to the lake with my girlfriend, and there are a couple of shots that I can include here in this video. This is not my final opinion about this lens, and I have a whole bunch of testing that I want to be doing with this, but I think that is better kept in its own video and published throughout the next few weeks as I am testing this lens, testing the different focal range that I have now available all the way from 15 millimeters up to 200 millimeters with the 70-200 f4 here. Now, one thing I want to mention that I have mentioned here in the video or during the unboxing, when I looked into the front element of this lens right here, I noticed that there is a piece moving. And I actually did a bit of a research session afterwards because I know that, for example, with the 24-105, when you do not shut down the camera and wait until all of the shutdown process is finished, then you still have the same experience here. You have this wobbly lens element in the front. However, if you do shut down the camera properly, then you do not have that wobbly lens element in the front with the 24-105. Now here, with the 70-200, the shutdown process does not necessarily change any of the wobble. You still see the lens element flopping around, and it can be quite distracting or annoying, especially if you are, for example, hiking and you have your camera mounted somewhere on your belt or hanging around or something like that. Now, I'm not necessarily a fan of this kind of design. I would have preferred to have a proper locked position so that this kind of like a stabilizing element does not flop around. However, I have read in different reviews as well as basically the break apart session that someone did online that the pieces are well made and should hold up for a long time. So let's see how that goes in the long term. But so you know that this is actually a normal situation. Now, as I've mentioned, I am going to do a lot with this lens. I'm going to test it and see what I can come up with in terms of photography as well as video work. And I will also make videos about the thing about focal lengths and how you can use different ones, compression effects, as well as the shallow depth of field effect with more focal length and all of that. As you've seen in these photos that I have already taken here or showed you here, the compression that you get with this lens is pretty phenomenal. Now, I have learned that this is perspective compression and not necessarily lens compression. So you don't really need this kind of lens to get that kind of compression. However, if you want to get the kind of compression that you get from a lens like this and the millimeters there, then you will have to use something like this. Now, I am already a big fan of this lens already just by looking at the few photos that I have now taken and seen how much closer I can get or how much more compression I can bring into a photograph at the same resolution that my camera provides when using this lens compared to other focal lengths. Now, in the photo set that I've shown here, there are actually photos taken at 70 millimeters, some at 105 or around that number, some at 144 and 22, and also 200 millimeters. I just want to play around with the full range here to see whether or not this type of a lens is actually worth it comparing to, let's say, the 24-105, which has a significant portion of this focal range as well. Obviously, the 70-105. Now, is it worth it to carry this and also bring the 24-105? Is it worth it to skip the area between 35 and 70 and just bring the 15-35 and then the 70-200? Now, this obviously depends on you as the photographer or filmmaker because your range of focal length that you want to be using is very different from the one that I want to be using. For me, for the most part, I want to be able to vlog and make video content with a wide-angle lens. So the 15-35 is the next one that I will be talking about here on the channel, as I have that on my hands now as well. And then I got used to using something like the 85mm on previous cameras, and now with this opens up whole new opportunities and chances of different types of portraiture and also, of course, this kind of compression effect for landscape photography and video work. Now, as you can see, I am really excited to have this lens around here. I'm really looking forward to talking more about it and, of course, also making content with it, using it as a tool in my tool belt of camera gear. And with all of that said, if you have any questions, you can leave those in the comment section down below. If you want to chat about this type of stuff or all the things that I am talking about here on my YouTube channel, you can join my Discord server with the link in the description below. If you want to check out this lens, of course, that's also linked in the description below. And with all that said, I hope you have an amazing day, make it your life, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao!